My dudes, what is up? It's been a while. Welcome back to my tiny house and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacy, in case you forgot who I am, because it's been such a long time since I put out a video. I feel like I've been saying this too often. I don't want to apologize for just living my life and not being online as much, but you know, I really appreciate you guys actually watching my videos, and I want to keep producing stuff and putting out there for you to watch. However, I need to try to find a way to make videos faster because my current filming and editing process just takes way too damn long. I actually filmed a whole video. I hated it. As I was editing it, I was like, I feel like I've said absolutely nothing. So it wasn't very valuable, so I decided to just like toss it in the garbage. And that was like 5 hours of my life that I just flushed down the toilet. So today I am recording this on a new laptop, actually. So I'm just trying this out. I'm experimenting. I'm trying to find a way to like just get some shortcuts. So let me know if you guys think, you know, this is unwatchable, in which case I'll go back to my DSLR and mic setup. The topic of today's video is something that I've actually wanted to make a video about for a really long time, but I recently saw on my YouTube feed, Tiffany Ferg made a video about this topic, which is fast furniture. So I kind of want to tie, I guess, two topics into one video. The desire to want to make our spaces more livable, more enjoyable, which has led to this huge rise of fast furniture, fast home goods, kind of similar to fast fashion. It's very disposable, not so ethical, not so sustainable. And then I want to talk about the course of shopping online, how it's gotten better, and then seemingly, at least from my perspective, has gotten way, way worse over the past 8 years or so. I'm going to talk about shopping on Google, shopping on social media, secondhand markets like Kijiji, and also I'm going to talk about Etsy and the downfall of Etsy and why I think there's this huge gap in the market right now to connect consumers like us to the products that we actually want to find.
So I open up Google and start to search. Once, twice, 3 times. No matter which keywords I use, I'm never able to get to a solution. And so I lose my patience. I go on Reddit and in 1 minute, here's a solution. I swear that a few years back, I could have just gone to Google and find whatever I was looking for. And I'm not alone thinking this.
You can tell by my surroundings that I like to have an aesthetically pleasing place. I think like many of you, spend a lot of time at home. I spend a lot more time at home than I used to. When I used to work in an office, I lived in a city, I would basically only come home to like sleep. I wouldn't even really eat at home very often. Now, a lot of us are spending more time at home. We might be studying at home, working from home. I'm also, you know, I'm 31 now. A lot of people in my life are in these transitional phases. They're moving out from one place to another. They're buying their first home. And that usually means that you need to get furniture. I have been in the market for a lot of things in the past couple of years, moving out of my apartment. My old couch was just way too big to fit in my tiny house. So actually, initially I got a hand-me-down, a secondhand couch from my partner's mother. But then I had bed bugs. I'm not going to go into depth on that because it was a very traumatic experience, but I had to get rid of that couch and buy a new one. And by couch, I mean, I had very specific requirements. This is also serves as a bed for when I have guests over. So I knew that I wanted a futon, a pull-out couch. I knew I wanted it to be at least a double or queen size mattress. I knew that I wanted it to be hardwood, and I knew that I wanted drawers underneath. So I think a lot of people, when you're looking for furniture, IKEA is probably one of the most popular furniture stores around the world. And what's interesting about IKEA, I think, is the whole shopping experience. If you go through that store, it's like a maze. It's designed The floor plan is designed very specifically to lead you through. Let's say you're really set when you walk into the IKEA that you need to buy a set of drawers, like a dresser for clothing storage. You end up walking through the kitchen area, you're walking through the living room area, and suddenly you leave with a side table and a bunch of other things that you maybe didn't intend to buy when you walked into the store. I want to kind of tie this into the online furniture and home goods market and how drastically it has changed over the past 10 years. I have been burned many times buying things online that do not end up looking like what they looked like on the online listing. They're not high quality goods. They might not feel good. Something like a mattress is really hard to determine if it's good for you if you're buying it online. Actually, I didn't even do enough research to get into the whole like rise and fall of Casper mattresses, and you can test it out for like 100 days, and if you don't like it, they'll take it right back, and you don't even have to pay for the shipping to send it back. For folks like me who live out in the country, first of all, I don't even have delivery service where I live. It's not like I never buy anything online, but I very rarely do because I have to send it somewhere else and then I have to go pick it up. But that's not the main reason. The main reason for me that I prefer to buy things in person is because I want to touch it, I want to feel it, I want to know if this is high quality. So I will buy things online occasionally as long as I know that it's from a reputable company. And that seems to be harder and harder to find these days. I remember in the very, very early days of the web, when like eBay was one of the first online marketplaces out there. In those early days, we didn't really trust processing transactions online, using a credit card online. What if someone steals my credit card information? And obviously that changed pretty dramatically over such a short period of time. And then suddenly, a lot of things changed. So one thing that actually really pissed me off this month, in February of 2023, Instagram got rid of their shop feature where you could shop the people that you follow. So if you follow a lot of home goods, tableware, ceramics, textiles, you will see all of those people's products listed in this feed. And then it will also recommend some other brands that they think you might like based on who you follow and your online purchasing behavior. And it was actually pretty accurate. I had a lot of items that I had saved on my wish list. And then suddenly the Instagram shop just disappeared. I think this was a really bad call on their end. I really don't understand why they chose to do that, other than they just want to stab small businesses in the back repeatedly and make it harder and harder for them to find customers. They're trying to put more emphasis on reels, which just seems strange to me. Shops can still tag certain products in a post. So they can say, you know, this planter, this blanket, this pillow, whatever, tap on it, and then it will bring you to their respective website where you can shop. But it doesn't amalgamate all of those products into one place that you can easily use as your directory, essentially. That's what I am looking for. One place where I can go to that consolidates all of these different products across the web. So Google introduced this shopping feature a few years ago now. I'll fact check myself and put the date. You can have your products listed directly in Google Shopping. So people don't have to look at the search results, which are just text. It's really hard for you to shop for pillows or throw blankets if you don't have a visual of what those products look like. You're just going to go through pages and pages of search results, click through each individual shop. You have to open those in new tabs. It just makes the shopping process much, much easier when it's visual and you can see all those products in one big product listing. However, Google makes it really, really hard for them unless you have a ton of money to put into advertising. And that is essentially the doom of e-commerce. I think that is the root of why all of these websites suck nowadays.
This is where the company has decided to turn up the dial to the max in the last years. And it's showing. While sponsored links were limited to 2 or 3 per search, in some cases that now take up the entire first part of the screen. But with any ad-based product, there is only so much you can turn up this dial. Because the more you increase the number of ads on a product, the more frustrating the experience becomes from users.
So one example is Kijiji. That is basically the Canadian version of Craigslist. It's just a classified ads website. Just like eBay that I was mentioning before, it was a customer-to-customer platform. Again, you have an old table that you're not using anymore. You want to get rid of it. You sell it to essentially like your neighbor, someone in your neighborhood who's willing to come and pick it up, or you're willing to drop it off. The platform facilitates that sort of exchange. Then it started to get swamped with ads. And I'm not talking about like banner ads that are very clear. What I have a problem with is when they mix advertising into the actual listing to the point where they look like legitimate product listings. A lot of the listings are just ads for Wayfair, the Home Depot, these big box brand names. I really want to dive a bit into the history of Wayfair, but I'm not an expert on this topic. So I'm just going to try to give you like the Coles Notes version that I know off the top of my head. I also used to work for a furniture shop. It was a little shop in downtown Toronto. He had been around for like 25 years, and his business just went once Wayfair started coming out. They were offering really, really cheap prices, free delivery, and they were just blowing everybody else out of the water by putting so much spending into advertising. Meanwhile, Wayfair was hemorrhaging money. It was spending more money on ads than it was making for years. It wasn't turning any profit. And somehow, a lot of really big companies that have investors or are selling shares on the stock market, but had this guise of innovation to get people to put their money into them so that they could eventually grow. And your small mom and pop shop, brick and mortar store that is just selling stuff on Shopify or, some other online platform doesn't have $10,000 a month to put into Google ads. If they don't have investors backing them, they're pretty much destined to fail by trying to advertise online. That idea of putting a ton of money into advertising and not getting any results out of it was something that Etsy was trying to counteract or like find a different way to allow their customers to advertise. So Etsy is like a whole other can of worms. I used to love Etsy and I used to sell products on Etsy. The whole point of Etsy, if you've never heard of it, is supposed to be a marketplace for handmade goods or vintage. Those are the two criteria. It has to fall under one of those two things. So vintage furniture is like a great example. Furniture used to be made out of real wood, not particle board, materials that are just going to fall apart over time. IKEA furniture, some of it, not all of it, I will say some of it is made of solid hardwood, but most of it is made of particle board with this like laminate fake wood, basically like a sticker almost on top. It's also much easier to repair. Hardwood, if you get like some scratches on it, you can just sand that off. You can give it a new, oil or wax coating and it'll look like brand new. If you get a scratch on particle board, there's no fixing that, right? So it's also not made to be repairable. Some IKEA furniture, as you guys know, it comes in a flat pack, comes in a box that you have to assemble yourself. And it's actually not designed to be disassembled and assembled again. The screws won't screw in properly. And so if you're moving from one place to the other and you can't fit that couch through your door frame and you have to disassemble it in order to move it, you might not be able to put it back together when you arrive at your new place. So the reason Etsy has changed a lot over time is for a few reasons. One, they ended up going public, selling shares on the stock market. And so people who were investing in Etsy as under, I feel like this is always going to come up in every one of my videos, under a capitalist economic model, they have to increase their revenue every single year. Otherwise, investors will just drop out. Etsy started basically forcing small creators, artisans, people who are making the products and selling them on Etsy, hey, we're going to put ads for you on Facebook, on Google, on Pinterest, and you don't have to pay a dime until somebody purchases your product. So unlike on Facebook, when you can put $3,000 into ads and get no conversions whatsoever, we will put the $3,000 into ads, and then once someone purchases your product as a direct result of clicking on that Facebook ad, we will take 15% of that sale, which might seem fair to you. For a lot of small businesses, 15% is not a small amount, right? The problem was they had no way to opt out of that. Etsy was just doing it on their behalf. It did send a communication to everyone to say, hey, this is the way we're going to work from now on. But it didn't allow the maker to even change the threshold of how much they were willing to spend on advertising. The other thing that's happening, and I have definitely noticed this myself when I'm trying to shop on Etsy, is that a lot of the products are not handmade or vintage. Really big manufacturers, overstock kind of companies who buy a ton of product, mass-produced products, are selling them on these platforms under the guise of being a small mom and pop shop when they're really not. Basically, Etsy turned into the exact same thing that all of these other platforms are turning into. One website I want to quickly show you guys, and look, I'm not trying to tell any of you where you should buy or how you should buy. I will not buy things from Amazon. I never have, and I never will. And that doesn't mean that I think that I am, holier than thou. I can't stand people who are like that. We all contribute in our own ways. We all have different means, right? And look, I was broke as hell for the past 3 years. I just recently got a new job where I'm finally making enough money to not be stressed out 100% of the time. So I know what it's like to be really constantly trying to stay alive and keep your head afloat, which is why I used to buy almost everything secondhand on Kijiji. I feel like everyone's kind of migrated away from Kijiji to Facebook Marketplace, probably because of the prevalence of those ads. Our morals, our ethics are complicated, and they might not always cohere exactly to our consumer behavior. That's just the way life is. However, there's a really cool website that I have used in the past called Not Amazon. It is based in Canada. I wonder if there's an equivalent to this in the US. And the whole point of it is basically showing that there are other options, reminding you that there are small businesses across Canada that you can support. Other than that, I really have not found any good place to find the stuff that I'm looking for. I still have this problem all the time when I'm looking for stuff for outside, stuff for inside, kitchen, gadgets. Really like to hear your thoughts. What I'm thinking of doing, honestly, guys, is making a directory website myself. Good On You is a great example. It's a little more in depth than what I would do, where they provide rankings. They actually look into the sustainability practices of a bunch of fashion companies. I want to make something like that, but for home goods. The only thing is I'd have to buy a domain name and pay for the hosting of the site, which I could, recoup those costs maybe by putting some banner ads for actually ethical brands. Or I could just, make a GoFundMe or something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I make something like this? Technically, it'd be very easy, be very feasible for me to do on my own. And I would use it. If you know of any great brands that we should be supporting that make furniture, home goods, kitchenware, all that kind of stuff, leave them in the comments down below so we can kind of help spread, amplify those small brands with anyone else who's watching this video. And if you found this video interesting or helpful, or if you learned something that you want to share with a friend, please share this video. I would sincerely appreciate it. And that's all for now, folks. Take it easy.